Another year at Import Alliance.
I'm crazy. I was like, oh, that's shit.
Yeah. You see Hybrid, I'm right behind him, bro.
Yeah, man. How you like? Have you been to Atlanta before?
We're going tomorrow. We're going tomorrow night.
Yeah, okay.
When you're at the Import Alliance Showcase lot, only use Patterson Car Care to dress up your car. David sent me some Patterson Car Care, which is really nice, so I'm using it to clean up the car.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, back to another episode of Honda Street Garage. This video is going to be informational for other people in the industry, other creators, other car content people. I went to Import Alliance a couple weekends ago and didn't really film very much because I wanted to just experience it kind of like I used to. You know, go there, hang out with friends, talk to people, meet subscribers. I got to meet a lot of you guys, which, you know, was awesome, and I had a great time. I thought I would make this video because I got a lot of the same questions while I was there, and there have been other people and other YouTubers that have also asked me questions, so I figured I would just make a video and kind of talk about something that doesn't get really talked about a whole lot, and that is, how do you get sponsors? This is a very loaded question because the answer for it is pretty long, so I'm going to try to boil it down as much as I can, as well as go over some other, you know, YouTube creator tips. So the main question is, how do I get sponsors, or how does anyone get sponsors being in social media industry, essentially, especially I guess when it comes to automotive stuff? And the answer essentially is relationships. It's kind of hard to describe sponsorships because they're not always the same. Every sponsorship that I've ever had or partnership has all been different, and they've all been based on some type of relationship. And I've talked to other YouTube creators as well, like Zosh, David Patterson. Everybody's experience is a little bit different. The first thing that you have to realize that if you're thinking about reaching out to a company for a sponsorship is you have to have something to bring to the table, essentially. There's a lot of other facets to it as well. It's not just, hey, you know, I've got an Instagram account, I've got this nice car, I've got this YouTube channel, you know, can I get some free parts? There's more to it than that. A lot of times companies will have very different angles when it comes to sponsorships or advertisement or, you know, promotions or anything like that, because each company is going to be built differently. And one of the biggest misconceptions about the automotive industry is that most of the automotive companies that are out there are, for the most part, small. They're not huge operations. There are definitely some, you know, companies that are pretty big, but for the most part, it is a small industry with a lot of people knowing each other. So let's say you do have something to bring to the table, you have a platform, you have a social media that does pretty well, and you want to reach out to a company. Sometimes it could be through an email or through Instagram or through Facebook. There's all different ways of doing it. Sometimes it's meeting those people in person. Sometimes it's just somebody else kind of puts you in touch with someone else. Every time that I've ever had any company or anybody help me out along the way with my build, each experience has been completely different. When it comes to kind of building your channel or brand or anything like that, you really have to think about, you know, what you represent as you're building your channel or you're building your brand as it is. These days, there's so many different facets between YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and there's plenty of others, Snapchat. You really have to kind of think about the content that you're putting out there. If your main thing is about trying to put the most quality content out there, you know, that can help you in a lot of ways. If you're more about, you know, having a lot of fun and doing things crazy, sometimes you may have more difficulty, or you'll have some companies that really like what you do and other companies that really don't like what you do. Because at the end of the day, if a company wants to help you out or essentially partner up with you, that's exactly what's happening, is that you're entering in a partnership. You know, the last thing a company wants to do is kind of help you out with a product, send you something, or give you a price break for it, and you either, you know, completely misuse it, or you don't promote it, or something like that. There's all different kinds of reasons why a company may not want to, you know, help you out. And of course, your following, your reach, your platform definitely dictates the level of companies that you would want to work with. Sometimes, you know, you just can't get their attention. I've had that where I've had companies, you know, not respond to me at all. I've had companies reach out to me. It's always been something that's very different. Another thing to kind of look at is how you brand what you do. And if you're just getting started and you're trying to build your YouTube channel, sometimes, reaching out for a sponsorship or a partnership isn't the best idea, because you want to build up reputation and your brand a little bit before you kind of want to go after that type of thing. Now, there is a completely different factor that comes into play sometimes that you really need to think about before you go after a company or go after a brand that you want to partner up with. Some companies have contracts that require certain things of you that might exclude other sponsors or something like that. And that's not always a negative thing. That can sometimes be a really good thing. I would be lying if I hadn't heard of horror stories from other creators and other YouTubers that they basically said that, they reached out to a company and, they immediately were on board, and the company essentially wanted more and more from that YouTuber. And at the end of the day, the amount of work that they had to put in, deal with, and the stress and things like that ended up to be more of a hassle instead of just buying the part outright in the first place. Sometimes you can be in that position, so keep that in mind. Everybody, in a sense, would love to have, free parts and free things. And that may be very enticing at the very beginning when you're trying to do something and you're trying to build. Because a lot of times, a lot of YouTubers are trying to get off the ground. They will kind of take things at the very beginning, not realizing or not really thinking about the long term or what's going on in the future. The thing is to diversify. If you have a strong YouTube channel, but maybe your Facebook and Instagram are kind of weak, you might need to kind of shift focus for a little bit and kind of push one or the other. And there's all kinds of things you can do. You can create contests, do giveaways, meets. You can do a lot of things in the automotive industry in today's world to help promote yourself and get yourself to that type of level. Now, another thing that you have to think about is that there are consequences to what you do. Sometimes if you're too honest and you put yourself too out there and you might seem like, extremely opinionated or gets themselves in trouble, you can find yourself in hot water kind of quickly, not only with your own brand, but with sponsors as well. So keep that in mind that, a lot of times when you align yourself with a company, you're representing them and they're representing you, and you have to kind of keep that idea in check quite a lot. If a company goes out of their way to help you and sends you something that you need that could be expensive, at the end of the day, they are taking a loss. They're taking a risk on you as far as helping you out. As far as diversifying what you're doing, look at merch, t-shirts, stickers. There's a lot of YouTubers that have done really well with that. One of the best services or websites that I use is Teespring.com. Teespring is a great service. You can design your own clothing, and what that allows you to do is design it, sell it, but you don't have to put any upfront cost into that merch. So it can be negative on the side of, well, you're not making as much of a profit percentage-wise for what you're selling, but at the same time, the last thing you want to do is, if you're starting out, you decide to invest, $500 in some merch to try to sell, you don't sell very many, you're kind of stuck with that. It can be hard to move that type of stuff. There are definitely some creators out there who do very well with that. Right Hand Drive Kev, Four Bangers, is really good at that. He's a great example to look up to. Going full-time on YouTube can be a difficult thing if you're a new creator and you're trying to get traction, you're trying to grow. Find what works for you. Try different things, whether it's vlogs or it's long builds, whatever it is. One of the things that's kind of difficult is that there's really no silver bullet that says, hey, all you have to do is pick up a camera and vlog and it's going to work for you. Because there's plenty of people that they try that and it doesn't work for them, unfortunately. Try to always cut to the chase, get to the point, essentially. It's not very interesting for people, so they click away. You might have some great content. If it's 16 minutes into your video, maybe people just don't get to see that awesome content that you have that they really want to see. And sometimes people can kind of overthink the message that they want to get across. In my opinion, this is totally my opinion, if you're a small channel, I don't really think that daily vlogs are the best thing to do, because if you don't have an audience kind of keeping up with you, you put a new video out where it's like, yeah, last time we did this, and maybe only 200 people saw it or 1,000 people saw it or whatever. Sometimes it can be daunting to, new audience members or new viewers that are, interested in what you're doing. The same tricks always work. Make a good thumbnail. Figure out what works for you. Figure out what works for your brand and your channel. If you're an automotive YouTuber, you generally fall into two categories. Either A, educational, meaning DIY, you show people how to do things, or you're on the entertainment side. And I think sometimes people forget which side they're on. And of course, if you're trying to sell maybe a lifestyle channel, it can be daunting. You really have to figure out what market you're in and kind of gear yourself towards that. Once you kind of figure out what you're doing and get some traction behind what you're doing, that's definitely going to open up the world of sponsors and partnerships and things like that to want to step in and help you and keep you growing. If you're a small YouTuber and you've been working at it for a while and it feels like you're not really growing, I think that's a sign to kind of try something a little bit different. It doesn't mean, change to a makeup channel. Change up your content a little bit. The way to kind of look at making videos, especially when you're at the beginning and you're kind of starting off, is to look at it like you're playing baseball. Each video is like you getting up to bat and you swing, and sometimes you miss and the videos go nowhere. Sometimes you get a home run and the video takes off. Sometimes it's a base hit and it does okay. That's just my opinion. I could be totally wrong. I'm sure there's going to be plenty of people in the comments be like, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just some fat dumbass that just talks too much. But at the same time, also remember, if you get rejected by a company, don't take it personally. There are some brands and companies that it's actually good that you may not, get accepted or partner up with for a number of reasons. Back when I was starting, I kind of reached out to, a certain company, I won't say, but, they denied me, which is totally fine. I understood where they were coming from. In the long term, I'm kind of glad because I've pushed forward. I realized in the long term, I really didn't need that. Another thing that I'm going to say is that the best thing that you can always do is remain independent, which is kind of like saying, stay broke. But at the same time, being independent means you have control of everything and that you own everything, because sponsorships at the end of the day are relationships. Sometimes those relationships can, be damaged or burned, or, negative things can come from it sometimes. Anyway, so this is the best I can come up with all the reasons for sponsors and things like that. The battery's dying. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll be at IBOC in Orlando, Florida at the end of April. Come see me. Thanks guys so much. Peace out.